When I say things, it doesn't necessarily mean material things. It doesn't have to necessarily mean jobs or relationships or homes. It can vary very easily and most often is habits, behaviors, ways of showing up, ways of thinking, so that the two go hand in hand. You cannot expand without letting go of things. If the trees never let go of their leaves, can you imagine? Can you even imagine? It wouldn't be possible for them to hold on to all of those leaves and have new life and produce the amount of oxygen they need to produce. And so we have to do the same thing.
Let's talk about change. The truth is, nothing changes unless you change. And if you want to step into your full potential, you need to surround yourself with the right people. That is exactly why I have created the InPowered Life community. Within this community, I'm going to be teaching you the exact same mindset and energy practices that I have taught my clients that are paying me well over six figures, including CEO owners of billion-dollar organizations and professionals at the very top of their fields. You're going to get access to 2 live virtual calls every single month with me, where we're going to dive into mindset, energy practices, spiritual principles that are going to help you thrive in every area of your life. Can't make a call? No worries. We're going to provide you with a recording so that you can catch up anytime. Plus, you're going to have the opportunity for direct coaching from me and to learn from incredible guest speakers who are going to share their best practices and growth. Remember, you become the people that you spend the most time with. So why not spend time within a community that is going to elevate you and your life? For an introductory $499, you're going to get a full year of support and coaching alongside high performers who are committed to expanding their careers, their growth, their finances, and to elevate their overall quality of life. Just click the link in the show notes or log into rudireikstins.com to lock in your spot and start your transformation today. Welcome to the InPowered Life Podcast, a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, then hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Aniston Reikstins, and this is the InPowered Life. Welcome to the InPowered Life Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Rudi Reikstins, and I have asked my incredible wife, Aniston Blair Reikstins, to join me for today's powerful and magnetic episode, speaking into expansion. You know, so often people find me when they are ready to expand to a next level, whether it's an individual or an entire organization. My expertise lie in supporting people, not only in understanding how to expand to their next level, but also being able to support them in letting go of the identity of who they used to be, of what they used to hold on to. You know, Aniston loves to remind me that this year, 2025, has been a universal year of completion. It's like we are letting go of who we were, of, how we identified, of relationships, of situations. And it doesn't mean we have to leave all the relationships, but we have to close out how we were in certain relationships so that we can birth a new version of ourselves. We have to close out who we were in certain states, like our bank account, so we can step into the abundance that we want. There is essentially a potential opportunity for everyone going into 2026. And I say a potential opportunity because we actually have to be ready, willing, and open for the change. But 2026 is about expanding into the person that you've come here to be. And I teach expansion. In fact, there is an art form as it is assigned to expansion. And you either know or you don't know. And so today's entire episode is about demystifying, dismantling, and supporting you in how can you step into 2026 as the greatest expanded version of who you came here to be. Aniston, thank you so much for spending some time with us on the InPowered Life Podcast today.
I am so excited about this conversation. And I once gave Rudi the unofficial title, which became official in some of his coaching relationships, as the Chief Expansion Officer, because it almost became like this running joke in our house that when a company would call or they would find Rudi and ask for his support, they were always on the brink of great expansion. They were desiring expansion. They were desiring to scale and to scale in really big ways. but they didn't know how to get there. And all of the ways that they had tried wasn't working. And it's because you can't just have one part of a business expand or one person in a business expand and expect a business to expand holistically. It has to happen for the whole, which means all of the individuals in your organization have to expand, which is why they would bring Rudi in, because he has this ability to coach a group yet simultaneously coach the individual. It's one of his superpowers. And when you take this and you take this same formula, but you apply it to your personal life or to any area of your life, really, it works the same, because how we do one thing is how we do everything, and who we show up in the boardroom is how we're showing up at home. And so I often would say to him, like, you really need to formalize this and teach this structure that you have created through much trying and testing and experiencing, both in ourselves personally but also with his clients, and share this with the world. Because from my vantage point, this is what I see, because I work with women, and the women that I work with are high performing. They're visionaries, they have goals, they have dreams, and all of those dreams are for things necessarily they're not experiencing now, which is going to require them to expand into it. But what happens oftentimes is the contraction comes before the expansion. And I think this is a good place for us to start, Rudi, because the natural state or of the universe is expansion. Everything is always in expansion. If it's not expanding, it's dying. And you've said this many times on many podcasts and on many stages. But what we don't often talk about is the flow that needs to happen. And you started the podcast by mentioning this year, 2025, numerically and energetically, is the year of the snake. It's the year of completion. It's the year of shedding. And all of us are experiencing this in different ways. And we're being asked to release and let go. This has very much been a year of what I would call contraction, meaning every time you work your way back down the spiral into contraction and back up the spiral into expansion, that you actually reach further than you did before. But this doesn't always happen because we're not always willing students. And sometimes we resist what is happening. We over-identify with a season, right? And we assume that means now that we're heading on a wrong path, or our life is a mess, and we start blowing up all the things, when really this is a natural flow of energy and how we need to perceive it. And so I think that to understand expansion, you also have to understand contraction. And that is a part of the process of expansion. And so, from your perspective, Rudi, and your experience, I'd be curious what you think about this in terms of how do you help people navigate the expansion and the contraction before we actually get into the how to do expansion right.
I think that for me, I have always struggled when I haven't seen forward movement in something. And I've internalized that as I'm failing, it's not working, I have to blow everything up and try something else. And so my immediate shift in understanding that there are growth periods, and then I call them push periods and pull periods, where you push something forward and then you pull back. And it's not like a pull back to regroup because you're doing something wrong. It's pulling back because the time's not ready yet, because you haven't landed on it yet, because your body's resting, rejuvenating, you're in recovery mode. There's all of these incredible reasons. And so for me to be able to identify that there were push and pull periods, I wanted to touch that right away. And then I want to anchor for the audience. Have you felt that this has been a heavy year? Have you felt like this is a year where you're doing a lot of effort, but it doesn't feel like it's working? You feel like you might need to blow everything up because you're like, gosh, I just don't understand. I've done everything. I'm not seeing the traction. It could be in your job, your promotion, your relationships, the lack of relationships. It could be in a business venture, your coaching business, writing a book, anything. What has it felt like? And I want you to think about 2025 in this lens. I have looked at 2025 for me as a farming year. This is my seed planting year. And so it shifts my perspective on how I look at who am I going to be in 2026. And it all leads into the planning, the preparation, because how you approach anything is going to dictate what the experience is going to be and what it is that you're doing. And so everything I've done this year, regardless of the external information, the external validation, the external success, whatever it is that you're looking for to measure the effort, I've looked at it instead as planting the seed. We all know the analogy: you put a seed in the ground and it takes weeks for that seed to germinate and start to grow, and you watering and watering and watering and watering, and eventually it breaks through. Well, farmers innately know and understand this, but yet we get frustrated when we plant the seed and we don't see the impact. And so the question that I think is more powerful for the benefit of the audience today, before we get into how to expand. And then I want to touch on really like, why am I doing this right now? Because I think that's really important. But it's that everything that you're doing right now is in a germination period. And your responsibility is to continue to nurture and water the ground of every single manifestation that you want to bring into the world, everything that you want to be next year, every relationship dynamic you want to have. And if you start to look at life that way, and understanding that there are these natural flows of the universe that are supporting you, that when you ride the wave, you become a surfer. When you resist the wave, well, you just become a person that gets pummeled like a tourist at a beach and they're not comfortable with the ocean. And so it's the analogy of starting to learn and to understand the force of nature and the flow of nature and riding the flow and the natural order of life force energy. And so let's talk for a moment about why is it so vitally important to have this conversation today. Let's roll this back 2 weeks. My daughter, Aniston, our daughter, but for the benefit of the audience, my daughter, her name is
I'll
Love.
claim her too. I like her.
Yeah, you get to keep her too. Love is just one of the most incredibly creative, beautiful, loving, vivacious children, and she loves Christmas. Christmas morning is a beautiful morning in our household, not because of presents, because of family, because of love, because of tradition, because of color, because of decoration, because of creativity and the giving and the receiving and the just the love that is in the home over that period. And then directly after Christmas, like so many people, she's like, "Oh man, we have to wait a whole year." And it's like, there's always that moment, but it takes a minute for her to mourn it's over, and then she starts counting again. And so it reminds me of um, that scene in Dumb and Dumber where the lead character asks the cute girl, like, "What are the odds of you and I?" And she looks at him and she says, yeah, like 1 in a million. And then he's sad for a second, and then he goes, "So you're saying there's a chance?" Like he's got that really like, "Oh yeah." And my daughter's like that as it relates to Christmas. The moment it's over, she's like, "Ah, 364 days." And then she's already counting down. And every morning she comes downstairs and she will tell us, she has a timer on her phone that literally counts the days down. And 2 weeks ago, Liv walked downstairs into the kitchen to Aniston and I, and she walked in and she announced, "Dun, dun, 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 there are 90 days till Christmas." And Aniston and I turned to each other and we were like, "Oh my gosh, it's like almost the end of the year." And that spurred a conversation between the two of us. And that conversation was around how many people wait for the new year to step into being a new version of you. We talk about New Year's resolutions. We talk about people making new commitments of who they're going to be. And here's what I want you to walk away with. Outside of the fact that my wife is just an incredible genius that studies numerology, that understands the inner workings of human behavior, nature, God, the universe, flow, energy, you know, taking that breadth of knowledge and that information, she turned around and she said, "Wow, this is a sacred space between now and the new year." It's like when you see the full moon in all of its beauty with all the light from Earth shining on, and then it has the turn and a portion of the moon is missing, and we get a sliver of the moon. That's where we're at right now. We're in that sliver of the lunar phase because we're in that gestation period where we get to pull back, we get to question, who are we? Who do we want to be? What are we worthy of having? And then when we get into the new year, please, for the love of God, don't set a New Year's declaration on New Year's Day that you're going to stop doing this and start doing that. How about you already step into the person that you aspire to be so that when you get to the new year, you're already in the full flow and breadth of who you are and who you came here to be?
I actually think it's interesting because there's signs everywhere. And if we look at nature, nature always shows us the truth. Nature is our greatest teacher. And what the season that we have aptly named fall, right, is meaning what needs to fall away. Because the to continue to add on, right? I think sometimes anticipate and expect, especially in the Western culture, that we're always going to be in harvest season, which just that's just not realistic, right? If we look at nature, you can't always be in harvest. Every season has its place, and every season is important because otherwise we just become these energetic hoarders. We really do. We're just adding, 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 and then there's actually is no space. There is no space to fill. So when you get to the new year and you're like, right, let's do this, let's go. Like you're out of the cycle and the season, which is naturally asking of us to let go of things. So it's interesting. It's always been kind of a interesting thing to me that we have these New Year's resolutions, and oftentimes New Year's resolutions are to quit something. Right? I'm going to quit this. I'm going to release this habit. Well, fall actually is the best time of year to do that. The energy is really ripe for that, for letting go and creating space. And simultaneously, in order to expand, in order to create, to have more of something or more responsibility in your job, more finances, more this, you have to simultaneously let some things go. And when I say things, it doesn't necessarily mean material things. It doesn't have to necessarily mean jobs or relationships or homes. It can very easily and most often is habits, behaviors, ways of showing up, ways of thinking. And so that the two go hand in hand. You cannot expand without letting go of things. If if the trees never let go of their leaves, can you imagine? It can you even imagine? It wouldn't be possible for them to hold on to all of those leaves and have new life and produce the amount of oxygen they need to produce. And so we have to do the same thing. So I love that you brought that up. Hey, it's Aniston Reikstins here, and I want to ask you, have you ever wondered if there's more to your life and work than what you're doing right now? What if I told you that the universe is hiring and you were born to fill a role that will bring you true purpose and success? In my new number one best-selling book, The Universe is Hiring, Discover the Role You Were Born to Fill, I'm going to show you exactly how to step into that role. This isn't just a book full of inspiration. It's a roadmap to help you start shifting into a more fulfilling life right now. You'll get clear on your unique purpose, learn how to align with your strengths, and take actionable steps towards the career and life that truly light you up. If you're ready to make a change and start living the life you were meant for, grab your copy today. Available anywhere you buy your books online or click the link in the show notes.
So I want to really bring the audience forward as to today's conversation and why we're so passionate about this, because we both live in the world of transformation. And we get to every single day, either with individuals or groups within our communities or companies that we work with, support people in stepping into the full breadth of who they came here to be. Give them tangible, tactical tools so that if they can learn how to do that at work, what if they take that same skill set and they apply it into their personal life? What if they take that and they apply it into their marriage, into their bank account, into their health, into their well being? I love going into a business and saying, here's how we expand your company. Here's how we support you to grow. But I wouldn't be serving the audience if I didn't bring forward a very important part of the equation, and that is fractional growth. In a business, we speak about fractional growth in the sense that if you are going to grow a single area of your business will not be sustainable. So you cannot only grow your revenue, you cannot only grow your marketing, you cannot only grow one portion without growing human resources equally, because you're going to have a lawsuit, you're going to have a problem. You cannot only grow your sales arm but not grow your production arm. There's always has to be equal portions of the growth. But I want to bring it back to what I just said a moment ago, that when you can teach people how to do it at work, so you give the formula, this is how you expand, this is how you step into the new, this is how you stop looking at the way you looked at things so you can see them differently, so you can create something different. And they turn around and say, holy crap, that worked. That worked at work. Hmm. What if I taught that to my family? What if I did that in my personal life? What if I brought that into my hobbies? And we start to create that level of change. And so we're obsessed, Anis and I, obsessed with creating change. We are obsessed with supporting people and stepping into their highest and their greatest potential. We talk about it all day, every single day. We sit in front of a fire. We break it down when it's too hot to have a fire. We're in the swimming pool. And when it gets cooler, we're in the hot tub. But man, let me tell you, the conversation is the same. I'm sure that our neighbors, if they could hear us, they could write books on the conversations that we've had as it relates to transformation change, because it's literally the only running dialogue that happens in our home. But we don't only want to be able to support people that are in our immediate circle to create change because they've paid a said fee to be in proximity. We want everyone to have access to this level of change. We do believe everybody is worthy of it. And here's my fear is, what if in a year from now, your life is exactly the same as it is right now? Take a stab right now at what has it felt like to be you living your life, the level of money in your bank account, your relationships, your business, your forward movement, the lack thereof. What has that felt like? And now I want you to compound 365 days of living the same that you've been living right now. Maybe the circumstances change, but you still feel the same, because that's the cost of you not creating a shift or creating a change. And we want that at the end of this year, not 365 days from now, at the end of this year, literally less than 80 days away, you're going to be a different person, living a different life, feeling a different way. And that when you compound that for 365 days, holy crap, like now we're talking about miracle status lifestyle. And the point of today's podcast episode is to invite you to a training I'm going to do that's going to be 2 hours long. And I'm going to be diving into the art of expansion. And it is absolutely free. And I'm going to break down in the episode today, what are you going to gain by attending this? And if you don't attend it, but you just listen to the episode, you're going to learn a tremendous amount today about expansion. But I cannot possibly, in a 35-minute, 40-minute podcast episode, go into the depth of how do you create expansion and being able to fully and deeply understand the art, because there is an art to it, of being able to expand. And that art is to be able to duplicate it again and again and again. And if you do something enough times, then you become proficient at it. And over 10,000 hours, you become a master at it. And Aniston and I are master expanders. And so we 100% want to set you up for maximum success. And so I'm going to be inviting you to click the link in the show notes, where I'm going to invite you to a 2-hour training, absolutely free, where we will dive into the art of expansion, where you can look at all of the different areas of your life, of what are you living, what is the experience like to be living the life that you're living, what is it that you really want, what are the things you need to do to be able to achieve it, because I promise you, it's none of the things that you think. It's not pushing a car up a hill, it's not blowing your world up, it's not doing all these things differently. It's subtle shifts that create profound ripple effects out and in the world. And so, Aniston, from your experience of having lived in this, I want to say, the word I was going to use was content. It just doesn't feel applicable. But living this as a lifestyle, living, breathing, and understanding expansion, what do you feel is the greatest gift somebody is going to gain by going through this 2-hour art of expansion training?
I think what's dropping in for me right now is that, as you said, it's oftentimes not what you think immediately. And this is because it's our mind is constantly in the doing, right? It's going to say, you need to go and do this, you need, to create change, you need to get your body up, and you need to go here, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And there is always an element of action that needs to happen, because we live in a 3D universe that requires action. However, what our mind completely negates is what needs to happen energetically. And in order to expand, you first have to expand your capacity to hold more. And I think that that is something that you teach of the how, not only the what, right? It's the what do you need to do in order to expand. It's that how element and the how on every level. The how to expand energetically, how then to expand your intellectually, how then and how you're thinking, how then to expand emotionally, because how you're thinking is going to create how you're feeling, and then how then to expand physically. It is, as you said, a company. Like your life is the microcosm of the macrocosm. Just as you can't expand a company in one department, you can't expand your life in one area. So if you come and you're like, I really want to expand financially, Rudi, I'm going to come to your workshop. Well, be prepared. You, in order to expand financially, you also need to expand your marriage, and you also need to expand your health, and you're going to need to expand your mindset, and you're going, you know what I mean? Like, because if you only expand in one area, it'll get out of balance. And I think you have a beautiful process and a structure of teaching how to do that, and how to do that in a way that is actually doable, and giving tools and a process. And I think the other thing that you're going to gain in what I see as one of the hardest, or I won't say hard, but most challenging parts of expansion is that expansion, in order to expand, you have to leave the confines and comforts of your comfort zone. It is going to feel uncomfortable because you have to head out into the unknown. That's the only place change happens, because if you're in the known, then you're not in the realm of change. You're not in the realm of the new. You're in the realm of what is. And I think that you have to give your mind enough information so that you make it feel comfortable, and your nervous system feel comfortable that, hey, this is safe. We're going to do this. Gonna feel a little uncomfortable, but it's for this reason. We're going to be okay. And I think so it's twofold. That's what I think, in my opinion, the real value. Could you read a book? Absolutely. Could you, do your research and get all this information together? Sure. But knowing is not the same thing as doing. And I think when you can align yourself with like-minded people, or a teacher who is going to help you through that process of being comfortable in the uncomfortable, and not turning back, and running back to what is known, because that tends to be, I think, where people really mess up.
I want to touch on that. I have clients that I've been working with for 4 years. I have a client I've been working with for 5 years. I have a client I've been working with for 2.5 years. And they continue to work with me. And when I first got into coaching, I had a belief that if somebody continued to work with the coach, that the coach was ineffective because they were not giving the person the breakthrough that they needed. They created an environment where the coach became their dependency to navigate life. And so I had a judgment on people working with coaches long term. And I've had coaches that I have turned to, that I've paid money for, that has supported me in learning something. But when I've learned the skill, I'm like, I think I'm good. And I step out of that. And what I've come to understand, which has been such a humbling experience for me, and I'm eternally grateful for, and the reason I'm mentioning this here is that I have clients that have achieved tremendous success in having worked with me. And I'm talking about like hundreds of millions of dollars in growth success, tremendous success, loveless to marriage to children. I mean, unbelievable turnaround, life changing events. And the reason so many of them continue to work with me, and when I ask them, why do you still want to work with me? I mean, like, what I teach now, it's so ingrained. They say to me, because you have an ability to help me expand out of what I've become accustomed to. And this is what I want you to really think about right now. The entire life that you're living, your entire existence is built on what you believe you're worthy of having. And that when you can have somebody in a 2-hour phone call, or in a 12-month commitment, or 5-year relationship of supporting you, they can see your blind spots. They can help you see your blind spots. And then they can help support you to create an infrastructure where you are going to be able to turn around and challenge, question, and push through and ultimately break free from the constraints of who you used to be so that you can step into the new version of who you want to be. One of my favorite conversations with my long term clients is towards the end of the year that comes up in fall very intentionally, where we start to talk about who are you going to be now? Who are you stepping into now? And that is such an exciting conversation because we become very accustomed to who we think we are, to what we think we're worthy of having. And the difference between having and not having is your belief in having it or not. And so when I go through this expansion formula, I'm going to rapid fire touch on what are the greatest takeaways that you're going to benefit from this. And I'm going to give you just a snippet of each one and just do a little bit of due justice for this because you're listening to the episode today and I don't want to leave you hanging. This is not a bait and switch. This is truly just an opportunity for you to gain the level of understanding of how deep we're going to go inside of 2 hours. But with the clients that work with me long term, with somebody that comes to me in one day for a VIP immersion day, or whether it is going to be on this 2 hour immersion, we're going to start with accountability. You have to take accountability for the life that you are living right now, for what you have, for what you don't have, because all your thoughts, all your feelings, all of your actions and behaviors have led you to be living the very life that you're living right now. And in order to create that change, I love that you said that, Aniston, because I had no idea what you were going to say, but I knew that it would have genius behind it. And it was that when you step into your inner knowing of who you want to be and how you want to create the change, there is that inevitable moment where you realize, wow, I have to do something I've never done before. And so many people get caught for two reasons. One, they're fearful that it's not going to work. And the second is they're fearful because they don't believe they're worthy of it. And if they got excited for it and it didn't work, it would hurt their feelings. And so we address that right up front. You have to be able to break through the limitations of what you have been doing so that you can step into the breadth of who it is that you want to be. You need to have a vision and a goal and a dream for who you want to be. If I turned my cameras around and I showed you the back, I literally have 4 boards that are filled with all of the things that I am manifesting, all of the things that I'm creating, all of the experiences that I want to have. I have books up there. I have awards up there. I have planes I want to buy, properties I want to live in, experiences I want to have, all laden on my wall so that at every single moment, when I just turn my head, bam, I am smacked in the face with the vision I have for my life. And every day I challenge that vision so that it can be greater than the vision I had of my life yesterday. Because I remind you, yesterday's vision got me to today. But I'm not okay with staying small because, as Aniston said in the beginning of the episode, the natural state of the order of the universe is in a constant state of expansion. Everything is growing. And I remind you, if you're not growing your vision, you're not growing your awareness to what you've been doing, to what you should be doing, you're in a state of dying. You are pulling back, but not through the natural order of the universe. You're literally diminishing your light. You're diminishing your capacity. You're diminishing your vessel from having been doing and achieving. The second thing that I'm going to be bringing into this training is an actual formula for how you expand, and it is based in neuroscience. I'm going to teach you how to wake up the brain, how to, in a very short amount of time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on what it is that you're doing, curate your mind and your mental state so that you can spend the next 24 hours of your day hyper alert, focused on who you want to be, and actively utilizing the full breadth of your brain, your physiological state, your emotions, obviously, the actions that you're going to take throughout that day towards the success of who you want to be. I remind people whenever I walk into a company, you are the sum total of every decision you've ever made. And I really ground that for people because you are the sum total of every thought, feeling, and ultimately decision that you have ever taken. In order to change your life, you've got to start making different choices. But 95% of our thoughts and the decisions that we make, they're not even ours. They're unconscious thoughts and decisions. And so, based on this very simplistic form of shifting your mind, shifting your emotional state, it's going to shift the decisions that you make. It's going to shift how you show up, which is ultimately going to shift every facet of your life. And then what we're going to do is really dive in for a moment and talk about what are the expectations that you have, because your expectations are grounded in thoughts. Those thoughts are grounded in repetition. The thoughts that are in repetition become beliefs. The beliefs become the rule book for how you live and govern your life. The majority of conversations that Aniston and I have with people, they will tell us why they are not worthy of what they seek. They will tell us why it is never going to happen for them. They will bring evidence of why. They will bring passion as to why it hasn't happened and it's never going to happen. And I want to be grounded in none of that is ever, ever true, because we live in an incredible, abundant, benevolent universe where we can have and do and be anything. But we have to believe that what we want is meant for us. We have to take back control of the 95% unconscious thoughts. We have to start making decisions that in that very moment are going to align us closer to who we want to be and not further from who we don't want to be. And then one of my favorite parts of this training is about disrupting your patterns of behavior. You have to be able to very carefully, intentionally create disruptions so that later in your day, when you've stepped back into the unconscious mind, you've got a trigger that says, whoa, are you taking steps that are taking you closer to or further from who you want to be, supporting you in creating this manual shift that you do repeatedly again and again and again and again and again. And then more than anything, that in this call, you will find a group of like minded people who are going through the same training at the same time, where you could potentially support yourself in being supported by other people on the journey that you're going in on. And that's why I say it is so important that if there is somebody in your life that you know, that you love, that you know there's more for them, you know that they have dreams and aspirations, but they haven't been able to do it, that you invite them to attend this. Because when we can create community, and I mean the people that you know that are around you that attend the training, where they hang up from that call or they turn to you, maybe they phone you and they say, holy crap, like I feel so pumped that I'm going to be a completely different person come the new year, that you formulate in that moment an accountability partner. Because if you can find people to support you in creating shifts, support you in creating change, you're going to be 95% more likely to live the life that you want to be living. Literally, when we have somebody hold us accountable, like if I go to Aniston and I say, hey, I want to do this training on expansion, do you think she's going to let me dawdle? No. Today, 3 times she said, where's your landing page? Have you done this? Have you come up with that? And I'm like, look, we spoke about this yesterday. Like, give me a minute. And she's like, no, because you know what? The universe likes speed.
Important. And people need this. And we didn't say we came here to help a couple people. Our impact is in helping the many, and then the ripple effect, the effect that comes from that. And I think it's so important. So yes, I am not going to let you forget this, because it is important and I believe in it. And I also know that you don't half-ass anything. I can guarantee you, when you come to this training, this is not going to be some watered down sales pitch. Like, this is 100% going to change you. And he believes that experience, and I believe this too, is experience is always the greatest teacher. So if you can, attend live, because he's probably going to take you through some kind of experience or some kind of activation that's going to activate your own ability to expand, to initiate you into the process. And I, for one, can't wait. I can't wait to be a student of it.
I did this activation in New York City to a group of approximately, I think it was 26 people last week. And at the end of the activation exercise, and I don't want to give anything away because I want you to be in the room. But when I did this at the end of it, I had a number of people come to me and they shared with me confidentially. Obviously, I won't give away any names or the business, but I had people come to me and say, Rudi, things came to me in that moment that I have never, ever, ever thought of for me in my life. One woman was crying, tears streaming down her face, and she said the vision for her life is so big now that she could never before that have imagined that something like that is possible for her. I share that with you because so many of us have a vision for ourselves that has been diminished based on our past experience. When our parents tell us, oh, don't be a dreamer, get your head out of the clouds, that chips away at your soul over a period of time. And eventually your goals become very, very safe, very diminished. And when somebody can support you in tapping into who are you meant to be? What is the life you're meant to be living? What did you uniquely come here coded to be? And that is all very, very spiritual terminology that we very intentionally slipped in there because you're a spiritual being who came here to change the world. And at some point in time, you need a remembrance. You need to be reminded of who you are. I want you to hear a freaking bell in the background, like we are ringing the largest freaking bell. It is your opportunity to have a moment where you get to remember who you are and what you came here to do so that you can start taking steps to achieve that life. 2 years ago, I did this training in Mexico to a group of about 200 people. And there was a lady sitting in the room, and she came from a third world country. She is from a third world country. And at the end of the training, she stood up and she walked over to me and she said to me, my goal when you were doing this exercise was to buy a house for my family. Currently, her family lives in a rental property where they have a kitchen, a living room, and one bedroom, and her whole family live in one bedroom and rural Africa. And she said, my intention in this activation was clear as day. I'm going to buy my own property. I'm going to have a small piece of land, like a plot where they can have farming, garden, have their own home, and have the safety and the security to know that they always have a place to sleep. She said, and then when I finished the activation, I sat there and your words were ringing in my mind. And your words said to me, you can have anything. And if you could have anything, who would you be? And she said it just kept going in her head. You could have anything. You could have anything. You could have anything. Who would you be? And she made the decision in that moment, sitting in that room with 200 work colleagues, that she was going to buy not one house, which I remind you, from a third world country, limited opportunity and potential. She'd never dreamed of owning her own property before. She said, well, he did say we can have anything. I'm going to have two properties, one all for me, and then one for my family. And they'll each have a room. And she's like, and I'm going to do it in a year. And so she got up at the end of that and came to me and she said, I'm going to have two properties. And we hugged it out, and she moved on and I moved on, and the week closed out. Well, I had the privilege of seeing her a little over a year after that, and it was at another event. And she stood up and she walked over to me and she said, do you remember me? And I said, yes, I do. You had set the declaration that you wanted to buy a house. And she said, yes, but do you remember me telling you that I wanted two houses? And I vaguely had a remembrance, but without the backstory. And she said, Rudi, I want you to know that I bought two houses inside of 12 months. My family never have to worry about where they're going to sleep, what they're going to do. She said, and it changed everything. But the greatest part of that story was not that she achieved what she wanted to achieve. It was that now she understood the formula and that she could take that practice and continue to apply it into her life. And now she's one of the top performers in her company. She's living a beautiful, abundant life, and she's learning systematically how to apply this to every area of her life so she doesn't just have a single area of fractional growth. She wants to expand the totality of her life. She's teaching her family, how do you expand the totality of your life? And that is the invitation for you to join this incredible training, The Art of Expansion.
While you were talking, I was reminded of when Rudi and I first met. We would oftentimes play this game where we would say, okay, if we were to win the lottery tonight, what would we do? What would we do first? And what would we do next? And what would we do? And what would we buy? And what different decisions would we make? And where would we be living? And all of those things. And it was an innocent game, but it was rooted in this invitation and permission to think big. And all of a sudden, because of this one outside source coming to us, that then we would be able to do all of these things. And then we dug into our work and we learned and we grew and we developed. And throughout that work, what we came to realize is like, I am the winning lottery ticket. You, I'm pointing at Rudi right now, are the winning lottery ticket. Every single person who is sitting here, are you waiting for the winning lottery ticket to live a life beyond your wildest dreams? Or has it been hidden in plain sight this entire time? And that by learning how to work with your energy and learning this formula, you don't need a lottery ticket. You don't need some power outside of you. You activate it within yourself. And you have this knowing that there is nothing that is out of your reach. And if you can imagine it, then it means it already exists. It's already circling you in your field. And you just need, you're learning, you're unlearning a lot, and you're deconditioning and you're relearning a way to approach your life from that vantage point. And when you do that, buckle up, man, buckle up, because the expansion will happen. It has to happen because your belief and your ability has expanded. So I really hope that we get to see you all there.
This is your invitation to be activated by someone so that you can learn the formula of how to activate yourself every day in every way so that you can be an example of what does it look like to live, to have, to be, to do, to achieve anything and everything that your heart desires. And that when you take the dream you have for your life and you double it and you triple it and still you're capable of more, what would it feel like to be living that life? And I want to close today's episode with that thought. I want you to imagine right now, what would it feel like to be living your ultimate life? And then what if that was even bigger than you imagined? Who would you be? What would you do? Where would you go? What would it feel like? And then I want you to bring that into the forefront of your mind, to drop into your heart, allow that energy to permeate the physiological state of your body and your being, and remember the divinity that is you. And for the longest time, we have been conditioned, misled, misguided, and not intentionally so, often just by accident through other people's life experience, to diminish the capacity of what we can have and be and do. And every single person that I've ever met that has achieved greatness in life, I promise you, it's not because they're better than you. It's not because that they have more talent and skill than you. It's just because they've done something consistently at a different level that has moved them into a different area. And this is your invitation to do that. I want you to click the link in the show notes. If you have any questions, you can hit me or my team up on Instagram. We would love to be able to support you. This is going to be a 2-hour session that is guaranteed to absolutely blow your mind. But more than anything, prepare you for 2026 and the version of you that you are worthy of being. I love you so much, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the InPowered Life Podcast. Till then, bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.